This is VOA News. Reporting via remote, I'm Jeff Custer. U.S. Defense Minister Lloyd Austin is leading a meeting of dozens of his counterparts from NATO member states and other parts of the world Wednesday to discuss their latest efforts to boost military aid to Ukraine in the face of a nearly 4-month Russian invasion. The talks are taking place on the sidelines of a NATO defense ministers meeting at NATO headquarters in Brussels. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg told reporters ahead of the meeting NATO defense ministers would meet with Ukrainian Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov and get an update on what Ukraine urgently needs.
I expect that at the summit, NATO allies will agree a comprehensive assistance package for Ukraine, helping Ukraine for the longer term to transition from Soviet-era equipment to modern NATO equipment, and to improve interoperability with NATO.
A virtual meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group last month drew representatives from nearly 50 nations and pledges of new aid packages. Ukrainian officials continue to urge international partners to send more weapons, especially heavy artillery, in order to help Ukrainian forces match up against Russia. Meanwhile, the Russian military said Wednesday it used long-range missiles to destroy a depot in the western Lviv region of Ukraine, where ammunition for NATO-supplied weapons are being stored. Those strikes came as fighting raged Wednesday in the city of Severodonetsk in the eastern Donbas region, the key focus of Russia's offensive in recent weeks. Earlier Wednesday, a Russian official suggested Russia appears intent on the destruction of its neighboring country. The deputy chair of Russia's Security Council and former President Dmitry Medvedev said, "Who said in 2 years Ukraine will even exist on the map of the world?" This is VOA News. Heavy rain in China has claimed at least 6 lives this week and forced the evacuation of some 200,000 people. Associated Press correspondent Charles de Ledesma has details.
Video on state broadcaster CCTV has shown large parts of cities flooded in muddy waters and rescue workers carrying trapped people out of buildings on their backs in waist-deep water in Guangdong province in the southeast. State media has reported 5 deaths in the region. A house collapse took 3 lives, while 2 perished in a landslide. China regularly experiences seasonal rains and flooding during the summer, most frequently in central and southern areas. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
The UN Human Rights Office is warning the scale and magnitude of violations committed by Myanmar's junta against civilians since last year's military coup could amount to crimes against humanity and war crimes. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, submitted a report to the UN Human Rights Council Tuesday. In her oral update on conditions in Myanmar, she called for action to bring Myanmar's generals to account and to return the country to democratic rule. She told the Council that lives and the future of Myanmar's people are hanging in the balance. Since the coup in February of 2021, she said at least 1,900 people have been killed and 1 million internally displaced. She also said the military coup had crippled Myanmar's economy. Millions of people have lost their jobs and 14 million are in urgent need of humanitarian assistance. She said the junta intensified its military operations and violence in several ethnic states, amplifying the suffering of civilians. Myanmar was stripped of its right to reply at the Human Rights Council. It was not able to respond to the High Commissioner's report because the United Nations does not recognize the legitimacy of Myanmar's military leadership. France announced Wednesday that soldiers from its operation battling Islamic militants in the Sahel region of West Africa had captured Mali's senior Islamic figure Umayya Ould Olbakeh. The French Armed Forces Ministry said Olbakeh was captured by its forces between the night of June 11th and the early hours of June 12th, close to the border between Mali and Niger. Soured relations between France and the military junta in its former colony of Mali have led France to withdraw troops that were deployed in 2013 to push back militants linked to al-Qaeda and later to Islamic State. Mali has been hit by violence since 2012 when jihadists took over the country's northern area. France beat them back, but by 2015 they had regrouped and unleashed a wave of attacks in the nation's central region. Repeating the hour's top story, U.S. Defense Minister Lloyd Austin is leading a meeting of dozens of his counterparts from NATO member states and elsewhere to discuss boosting military aid to Ukraine. Reporting via remote, I'm Jeff Custer. This is VOA News.
Music and more.